There he is.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July meeting of the Greencastle Common Council. If I could ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting. Linda, can you call the roll, please?
Councilor Mark Hammer.
Here.
Councilor Adam Cohen.
Here.
Councilor Stacy Langdon. Here. Councilor Veronica Pedro.
Here.
Councilor Cody Eckerd.
Here.
Councilor Dave Murray.
Here.
And Councilor Jake Whitener.
Here.
Next item of business is public petitions and comments. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to petition council for an item that is not already on the agenda? Okay. Hearing or seeing none, our next items are special requests. We have several street closure requests. The first one from Main Street Greencastle. Mike, can you come forward?
Do it. No. Oh, no, this is good here. Just can't hear you.
Evening, everybody. Mike Richmond with Main Street Greencastle, here to discuss the road closure and noise ordinance for August 7th for First Friday. Before I talk about some of the changes that are going to happen this year, I want to take just a quick minute and kind of explain the responsibility and how we've done setup in the past, just so everybody kind of has an idea, and then you can kind of understand some of the changes we're taking. So we work closely with 3 restaurants, Almost Home, Wasser, and Moore's, and they're the ones that are responsible for booking the music, bringing in stage and sound equipment, and then submitting their floor plans to excise for beer garden and whatever food they're selling for the evening. They also help us set up and tear down and clean up and that kind of thing. Main Street is responsible for getting street closures, noise ordinance, working with our vendors and doing more of the setup and layout of the event. And then of course we do work with excise and the health department, and then coordinate trash cans and porta pots and hand washing stations to be brought up. So this year, what we're asking for is 5 to 11:30 for August 7th. We added an extra 30 minutes. We had some issues last year where we had some traffic coming through as we were trying to clean up. So just requesting an extra 30 minutes to tack on this year just to help clean up and make sure everybody's safe while we're doing that. But what we're going to be doing is making a few changes, obviously, for health and sanitation purposes. The main one being that we're working with Brooke at the hospital. Just got confirmation from her that we're going to be able to use the community hand sanitizing stations that the hospital's ordering. They're getting them on August 6th, so we're cutting it a little close. If they don't have the stand, they're ordering the big stands that come with the pump stations. Said if we don't get those in time for whatever reason, the hospital is still going to provide us with some pump bottles that we can use at the vendor locations, and wherever we have some type of a surface we can put them on. So we are getting a little bit of help in that regard. As far as vendors go, we are probably not going to be reaching out to a lot of vendors for 2 reasons. One, just to kind of limit any sort of cash and transactions back and forth as much as possible, and also to kind of keep the streets a little bit more open than what they have been in the past. So if you're not familiar, all of Franklin Street from Almost Home basically to Bear Threads is lined with vendors. All of Indiana Street is lined with vendors, and then we have some additional ones on South Indiana Street, and then a portion of Franklin heading down towards Wasser or Vine Street is normally about half full with vendors. So the plan right now would be to more than cut that in half. What we'll probably look at doing is inviting a very select few, somewhere 5 to 10, and just fill that portion of Indiana Street from Franklin to Washington. Make sure we can space everybody out appropriately. And then, of course, we'll still have beer garden and food. The restaurants will come out and host their beer garden and sell their food next to where the bands normally play. We do have table and chairs set up. We have in the past had tables and chairs set up out front of Moore's and out front of Wasser. Almost Home normally doesn't have any out there. I assume that will stay the same. We haven't had the discussion yet because obviously we don't know if we're going to have the event, but the requirement from Main Street would be that the sanitation and cleanliness of the outside tables would be treated the same as the inside of the restaurant, just like what we've done with the kind of outdoor extensions that we've had the past month. That same process would apply, so that the restaurants would be responsible for keeping those clean and sanitized. And if they feel they can't get that accomplished, we just won't set out tables and chairs. Again, kind of freeing up a little bit more space and giving people some more open room. The last thing that we're going to be doing as far as sanitation is working with Baker Septic to bring up some additional actual hand washing stations. Normally we only have one, and we set it next to Scoops. There's a lot of food and garbage down that way, so it's always been kind of the need to have one there. We're going to be bringing in 2 additional ones and setting them basically at all of the food beer garden locations for this year, just to provide another area of cleanliness. The other step that we're going to be taking is to cut our marketing. So normally we do a social media campaign and try to pull people from surrounding counties and surrounding communities in. We won't be doing that in an effort to try to keep this as localized as possible, so we don't have people coming in from other communities. And on that note, our sponsor for August is First National. So a lot of times if we have outsides, we've had sponsors from Park County and Hendricks County, they naturally kind of bring a small crowd with them. So our sponsor is also a local sponsor for this month. Yeah, I think that's about all the steps that we can realistically take to try to cut down on any sort of exposure. I will just make one last point that the bands are booked. So we're going to have music inside. People that want to go are going to end up going. I'm here requesting this because I think it's a good idea that we have this happen as an outdoor event as opposed to 3 separate indoor events. Obviously the CDC's, their big stipulation is not to be indoors for an extended period of time and close contact other people. So by moving this outside, we open up that event and provide a safer format for this to happen. That's all I have.
Why are you only requesting August, not September?
In case something pops up. That was intentional, that we do this kind of a month at a time. We can basically cancel this at any point in time. And I didn't want to come in and get an approval for 3 months and August goes fine and we see a spike or something happens and then I have to, we get cancellation or something. I just wanted to do 1 month at a time just to keep track with any governor orders or changes in the governor's
To make
orders.
it easier on you, I think you can come in, and Lori can say that you could request it all next time and then you can cancel it.
Well, I've already, back in February, I already got all these approvals and never got any sort of cancellation notice or anything. So I'm here just doing it 1 month at a time because I think it's the right thing to do.
Okay. I just trying to make it easier.
Yep.
Mike, do you have any ballpark figures from prior, and I recognize that marketing is different this year, so your expectations are different for attendance. But do you have ballpark figures for head counts on prior year's events in August?
Yeah, August is normally, this July, August, September area is normally our most well attended. We see in the range of 1,000 to 1,500-ish. But that's not a confirm, we don't count anything as people come in. That's just kind of the closest guesstimate that we can have.
And technically, as far as if we were to consider the state's guidelines, it's really kind of 3 events, right? When we think about the 3 music places that are somewhat disparate to one another. So congregation tends to, from my experience being at the event, it gravitates out from the vendors toward the music.
Absolutely. So that the vendors are only required to stay until 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, most of them pick up and leave. And if you've been, you can tell there's kind of pockets around the stage where the congregation happens. If we don't have the vendors, I kind of see the excise considers it 3 different events technically. So
Well, and that's kind of where I'm going with it, because, as I look at the governor's stage 4.5 guidance, which is where we're at right now, it says social gatherings of up to 250 people may take place following the CDC's guidelines. But at the end of that paragraph, it says particularly in indoor locations. So as things get spread out, I don't think it's fair to count, unless you expect one band to hog the entire audience for the evening. Okay.
traditionally, I would say that South Indiana Street with the party lights and I think kind of the close quarters used to kind of lend to a little bit more of an environment where people tend to congregate.
In my experience too, it's a little narrower.
Yeah, it just kind of is a more a close-knit feel, but I don't know how that'll play out this year. But yeah, I would. It is kind of 3 different events. At least the floor plan that we lay out to excise is technically kind of 3
From
different
my
events.
experience, though, the crowd walks from one end to the other. These are not mutually exclusive arenas, and you've got 1,000 or more people there. It's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, colleagues, but right now, your event, Greencastle Music Fest, are not permissible in terms of outdoor festivals. They're not opening gyms back up. Right now, this event is prohibited under the state guidelines from the governor's office, as I understand it.
Correct. Until the 17th, when we go to 5, go to stage 5.
If we
Pending
go to
we go to
5.
stage 5. Yes.
You go to
of course.
5.
Yeah.
COVID diagnoses are going up in Indiana, not down. So that's my concern.
I guess I've been fairly consistent. You know, to me, it's one thing to approve the neighborhood block party. It's a group of neighbors. I'm struggling to, and it's nothing against you.
Oh, yeah.
I
Of course.
continue to struggle to approve this stuff in part because if we have a bigger spike, the end result of that will be shutting down our businesses again. And to me, that would be a devastating blow. I realize this one night brings money in, but I also know that what's gonna happen, step 2, so I've been fairly consistent with this. And I've been to First Fridays, I love First Fridays. They're crowded, that's what makes them fun, right?
Yeah.
They're crowded, people are bumping up against each other, you're eating, you're drinking. So I'm just being, I'm struggling seeing.
I understand. For me, I take it as a personal responsibility. The restaurants have done a fantastic job for the past 4 months, and for us to use the governor's recommendations and guidelines all the way through this, and then not allow this to happen once we do, pending everything goes fine, and we do open back up, and we are allowed for us to then turn around and not follow those guidelines, I think is a little unfair to the restaurants.
I understand that, but you know, we've tried to work with the right, we've opened up the streets, we've done.
Agreed?
Was what we did with the street legal? Now, I don't really care because it helped the business. That's about it. I'm just struggling here because, you know, the other thing the governor always says is local authorities got to do what's right for local areas. So I'll just shut up.
I'm putting this together with the Greencastle Music Fest and DePauw students coming back from all over the country and the world, and really worried about what happens in the fall when you have this series of events. And my concern is simply public safety. And so that's where I come down on this.
And just like the
I'm a Main
music,
Street Greencastle member. My wife is a regular at your meetings, totally supportive. But I think we've got a bigger issue here that I personally cannot look past. October, November, somewhere down the road, if we've bitten the bullet and we can start opening back up, then, you know, you'll have my total support, but
See, that's the issue, is we're going to be having this same conversation September, October, November. So at what point, okay, and this is a question that maybe you don't have to answer, but at what point are you okay with opening up? We currently have a State Department of Health and a governor's plan that allows for potentially, which I think there must be a stipulation that if the governor's plans were to change, right, or remain in 4.5. But at what point do we put faith in the data that our State Department of Health is putting forward for us and abide by their recommendations? So,
when the numbers are going down, not up, when they're going up right now. And that's
okay,
my concern.
and I guess, you know, I have, you know, faith in the data and the governor's plans that's being presented. And Veronica, I mean, if you have the data pulled up, it looks like, I think our cases have, by 100,000, by cases per 100,000.
I think we had 500 new ones today. We've been going, the state's been going a little
The
bit.
county level is great. We've done a really nice job, but we're talking about events now, that a series of events, they're gonna pull people in from outside Putnam County, and we're gonna be much more vulnerable as a result of that, from my point of view.
No, I was trying to answer, I think if you look at the state data day to day,
7-day moving average has gone down from 2.3 per 100,000 to 1.9 per 100,000 in the last week in Putnam County.
Yeah.
And I do honor totally what Dave is saying here regarding Indiana as a whole, definitely taking a turn for a not good outcome. When I piece together what Mike is saying about targeted marketing, trying to keep it local, I'm still listening here. I want to hear from everybody else at the table here.
Well, just a comment. I know I've already spoken, but, you know, this is a situation I'm playing out in my head. It you know, perhaps it's theoretical, but I feel and believe that people that want to go out, that have been going out, are going to go find and seek out entertainment regardless of whether or not this gets approved. They may seek that entertainment in Marion County. They may seek that entertainment in areas that potentially are not the best places to, you know, expose yourself at this point. I understand.
In the places that Mike cited.
I understand that we don't want to become the next Marion County in terms of our case count, but I don't think it's, you know, our population, our demographics would lead to that. That's just a thought I have, but I believe people are going to seek out entertainment, and if they go out of county, they're going to bring it back here regardless. I would much rather see this local. I'd like to see it support local business. I'd like it to be controlled locally, and I'd like to put faith in Main Street and our local businesses to provide us a safe event. And I'd like to provide people the choice to go out or to stay in. And that's my thought, and absolutely, you know, we could differ on our way of thinking, but that's the scenario I'm playing out in my head, is that the people that will choose to go out are going to do so, so why not provide them a safe, the best controlled option that we could offer in Greencastle, in Putnam County.
I have a thought, but I'll let others
All
talk.
right. Mike, I'm going to vote against this. I'm not ready to put our good people of Greencastle at risk this soon. Maybe it'll be different a month from now. Maybe we'll have to walk away from the entire First Friday season for 2020. I hope not. I have concerns about Music Fest. When we sat around this table July 4th, numbers were good, things were going down, or back in June, and the governor said by July 4th everything will be back to normal. Well, that's not the way it looks right now. I've talked informally to a lot of people in the area, and for every one that says have it, I talked to 10 that say, why would you roll the dice and gamble with it? So when it comes to, I'm going to vote against this, because why would we put the people at jeopardy for 4 or 5 hours of entertainment when I think the safe response is to step back and say, let's just put it on the back burner for another month or maybe another month after that.
I had, a month ago, we talked about the Music Fest, and I voted against that. What I'm looking at is, I mean, this is 2 weeks prior to Music Fest. How do we allow Music Fest to go on now and then vote this down? But at the same time, I have still the same reservations that I still had a month ago. And, you know, you get out there and you're trying to talk to somebody, you gotta get up right with the music. You've either gotta really walk away from a ways away, or you gotta get right next to each other. And that's not a good situation. I think from a, being cautious would be better than not being so and wishing we had been. So, and I don't know what Gail's planning to do, because she stood up here a month ago, 4 weeks ago, and told us she'd call it off if things changed, but I don't know what she's planning on doing. But on one side, I'm thinking, how do we say no to this, and 2 weeks later still let Music Fest go on? At the same time, I have the same reservations now, whether it's August 7th or August 21st or whatever, 28th or whatever the Music Fest is. So I've got some real reservations about it.
I do want to say,
And I really want us to have First Friday, get some things back to normal too, though.
Yeah, same here.
I do want to say, I do respect what you're saying. I do have some numbers in my head, and I'm not saying they're based on the State Board of Health, but I do have targets in my head that I would like to see, and then I'm going to become much more liberal. So it's not just an arbitrary, but you know, I'm not the expert, so I'm not going to give, I'd be happy to give my targets out, but on the other hand, I don't want people thinking I'm that's my research that I've done online, reading experts. You understand what I'm trying to say? I just don't want to lay all my
And I understand and respect it too, and I think I can speak for a lot of people that I've talked to that communicate to me that they don't know what to believe anymore. Whether it's Fox, MSNBC, whether it's Fox 59, Wish TV, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, people hear all of these numbers from all of these sources and they don't know what to believe. So I choose to believe what comes directly from our state Department of Health and from our governor, and that's just where I stand on that, on the numbers. I like to look at what's provided by the state, and if you don't think that's a reliable source, then you are entitled to that belief. I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying if somebody doesn't want to look at that, that's okay. But that's where from this issue, that's the source that I'm looking at, and the recommendations from the state. So, yep. Mm-hmm.
Right now, that source says you can't have this event.
Correct. Absolutely. And I believe that was communicated before by me. I think that has to be a stipulation, and I think it needs to be a written stipulation and not one that we just speak. I think it needs to be written into this if it were to move forward. Lori, I don't know how. I know there's a spot that says stipulations. I would be in favor of stipulating that, you know, this is contingent on the stage. I don't know if that was written in, but I mean, we could speak it here, but my understanding is it's not real unless it's in writing, so.
Well, we would put it in the agreement that you could also
Okay.
make it part of your motion.
Yeah.
That's what we've done in the past. Do we know the update on Gail's event?
I'm sorry?
Do we have an update on Gail's event?
Mike and I were at a meeting earlier this week, and I was only able to attend for a short period of time, and much of the discussion was, you know, do we want to keep going or do we need to cancel it? And Gail was going to look at setting a couple of dates, basically a drop dead date. If the numbers don't improve by such and such a date, that she would cancel it.
That's good to hear.
And this
Hey,
goes.
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Cody.
Yeah, well, I just want to thank Mike for bringing this forward. I want an opportunity to vote on this. I appreciate your flexibility, and I think that really has some merit, given that you could cancel this, you know, should the time come and things change. But I want to stay consistent moving forward, and think we need to take advantage of Stage 5 and every outdoor opportunity that we can. You know, I appreciate Veronica and Jake's points. And I think we need to leave cancellation, up to the governor and the State Department of Health, under just a very even across the board approach rather than just a piecemeal kind of gut feeling, with each and every one that we have. I think we need to take advantage of stage 5, and I'm happy to make the motion if we're done with discussion to approve your proposal.
I'd second that motion.
And Cody,
Yep.
you want to put any conditions on the motion?
If anybody wants to, I'm happy to tag that in.
And just for clarity, is that for both the street closure and noise ordinance waiver?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Did the motion include the provision that it be unless the governor restricts?
He did not include any
Well, I'm
conditions.
asking him.
Cody, do you want to include the condition that if the governor continues restrictions, that the event not occur?
Lori, that sounds like a wonderful idea. I'd love to include that.
Well, I just didn't know if we were assuming that or not. So,
And if he comes up with a 4.8 or a 4.9, but it's not 5.0, then it's still not 5.0.
Can I just say one thing very quickly? This isn't as big of a production as Music Fest. We don't have a drop dead date or anything. We can, if on August 6th, the governor comes and changes orders, we can just not do this the next afternoon. This is not as big of a production as the Music Fest.
What about the bands?
Well, the bands are booked regardless of what happens here tonight. So it's just a matter of whether they play inside or whether they play outside.
Okay.
I'd like to second the motion if sounds like we're good in terms of discussion, so I'd second Cody's motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the request by Main Street Greencastle? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Linda, why don't we do the roll call because of Cody being away?
Mark Cameron.
Nay.
Adam Cohen.
Nay.
Stacy Langdon.
No.
Veronica Pedro.
Aye.
Cody Eckert.
Aye.
Dave Murray.
No.
And Jake Wagner.
Aye.
4 noes,
4 noes.
3 yes.
Sorry,
Okay,
Mike.
thank you for the time.
Thanks for your effort.
Cool. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for coming.
Hopefully
Could I-
we'll see you back next month and we'll have a different.
Indeed.
Could I just have a point of clarification on the agenda? Because I'm still learning here. So the first section where it says public petitions and comments, is that just for things not on the agenda, or can public make comments?
That's just for things not on the agenda.
Okay, so
Are you asking like?
I'm asking about for new business, if there are certain ordinances people would like to speak on, or,
We normally handle that at the time that it's on the agenda.
okay.
But traditionally, I'll look to Mark, we've never really said no to anybody.
Right, I mean, if somebody
We've never
comes,
said no to anybody talking,
they
Okay.
come up with a comment of some sort.
as long as they keep it,
Okay,
so we've never said no.
thank you.
I can say on a related note, we haven't made a decision about Taste of Putnam County, but that's normally in September. But Chamber Board is definitely looking into alternative ways to do that
Right.
without the large crowds. No problem.
Okay.
Okay, our next request is the street closure request from Moore's Bar to extend the seating on Indiana Street. Is somebody here from Moore's tonight? Come on forward. Julie?
Hi, yes, I'm Julie Meyer, co-owner of Moore's Bar. For those of you that remember, first of all, thank you for letting us come and speak with you, even though it's just me. The temporary street closure that you approved, which was basically almost 2 months, was highly successful. I think we're looking at so many things here. We're looking at public safety, we're looking at small businesses surviving, not thriving, just surviving. And, you know, and then it's a fluid environment. We don't know what the governor's going to say next week. We have no idea. Just like we all thought he was going to say on July 1st, we're going to fully reopen. No, we're not. I highly, highly doubt he's going to fully reopen next week, just my gut feeling. I study the numbers just like the rest of you do. I think we are doing a better job in Putnam County looking at our numbers.
Yeah.
The outdoor tables that we put out 6 on South Indiana Street, very successful, not just for Moores, but for everybody. And they will all tell you that. Even at Farmers Market on Saturday, those tables are filled with little kids eating donuts, and you know, so it's, and we've taken every precaution we can possibly think of, more than even Lisa thought of. You know, there's sanitizers. We have disposable masks like you're wearing in Moores. If someone wants one, you can have one. And we haven't had any issues. I would say it's been 99.9% positive. There was someone that wanted to park that couldn't park there. But I think at this point, you know, in my career, you're much more successful if you're proactive than reactive. And I think at this point, we have to be proactive. How are all these businesses going to survive? We're not at 75%. Chris can tell you, we are not. We will never be there because we have to social distance. There has to be 6 feet. We have to abide by that, and we will. So the only answer to help us survive and to protect the community at the same time is to go outdoors. I know Chris will probably tell you next how his experience was, but I don't know. I know there's a lot of businesses that are in trouble right now. I don't know how much you talk to them. It might be a good community effort to do so. But we have to think about, okay, a year from now, we're trying to fill open storefronts in downtown Greencastle. How are we going to do that? Well, everybody closed. Why would you want to go there? What did they do during COVID-19 to help their community, but stay safe at the same time? So it's a balance. And what we're looking for, of course, we would love to keep South Indiana Street open, but we didn't know what was going to happen on 4.5. So what we would like to do, the South Indiana Street businesses, is wait until the governor speaks next week. Let's see what he says. If he says fully reopen, okay, then there's no further action needed. If he says we're at 4.51, which is probably what's going to happen, we would like to be able to close down South Indiana Street again, put those tables out there. They have umbrellas, which is nice, so it's a little bit cooler, until we can fully reopen. If you'd like us to come back every month and we can revisit, we'd be glad to do so. But I think we have to look towards that, because it might be, I mean, to shut it down and then it opens up for a week before the next city council meeting, and then we come back and then we shut it down. It's confusing, first of all, for citizens, and we've had many patrons that said, I'd much rather sit outside. Please just let me sit outside. And entertainment now is allowed inside. So why don't we have entertainment outside? So that's the second part of our request. We're kind of twofold. We would like to be able to have live music outside. We're only thinking about Saturday evenings, shutting it down at 10, so there's no noise ordinance issue there. And so people can stay apart, and people can get out, enjoy the things they want to do in a safe manner. So it's kind of a twofold request. So, open for questions.
Would you be okay if we split the request?
Sure.
And what I'd like to suggest, I'm not making a motion because I need Lori to even tell me if this is possible, that we extend the street closure until such time as the governor rules restaurants can be fully open, plus a week. That gives you, from when the governor rules it, a week to transition back inside. I personally actually would just love to close that street and let you have it all the time. I think it looks really cool.
That's another
When people
day.
are driving by, it looks, to me. like-
Second, Adam, second.
We'll work on that.
John Burgess will have something to say about it here shortly.
That is not my motion.
That's not today.
My motion would be, is on the first part, till the governor allows restaurants to be at full capacity, plus 1 week in case you need that week to transition back to your business model.
I second that motion, but I want to add a comment that, and there are trade-offs here, but even after the governor opens things back up 100%, do we, and this is a rhetorical question at this point, do we still want the outdoor seating for those people who are reluctant to go inside, even though the governor said it's okay to do so?
I want the outdoor seating all the time.
Yes.
One, because it lets people that are not comfortable going inside sit out. Two, because I like outdoor seating, I like the look of outdoor seating, I like the feel of outdoor seating. But I understand there are limits to that with John, and that's a bigger issue.
Are you going to put picnic tables in front of every place that wants seating outside?
That's why I put my little contingency on it tonight. I'm not ready to deal with.
It'd be really simple. We'll just do a very brief amendment to your contract, just extending it to that date.
I'm just saying how I like things.
And that's good.
But how do we know what that date is? We don't.
It'll just be 1 week after the governor
Okay.
says it's open.
So you don't have to come back next month. I'm
Can I
sorry,
make a
Bill.
suggestion on the date, that we make the date the next city council, the day after the next city council meeting, after the governor opens up? That way, if they would need to come back and ask for an extension or something, we don't have the gap that we had this week gap here.
Great suggestion.
I'm fine with that amendment.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
It just gives, a little flexibility, and, they can always shut it down earlier, but if they need to extend it or.
Up to the next city council meeting,
Day
the day after,
day after the next city.
instead of just 1
So that
week.
we can all discuss it.
Nobody's left in the lurch.
In case you want another extension.
Right.
Okay.
And I will let you know that, to your point, there are outside seating is very advantageous, especially for families and children. Like, we put out sidewalk chalk, we put out little games, and, kids can be outside in a safe space. It's never been crowded. So it's advantageous in many ways, as long as we're safe about it.
I understand, but Lori, it's a larger issue to make it permanent. I'm not ready to deal with that
that's-
issue tonight.
Yeah, that's more problematic.
That's a big, yes,
It's a bigger.
So Adam, are you okay with the amendment to that, to the?
I would have done that originally, but I wasn't sure I could get
Okay,
buy-in on it, so yes.
okay. And Dave, you're okay with it too? Okay.
Dave, were you the second on this? Okay. John Burgess would still like to make sure we maintain fire lane access there. 'cause
Absolutely.
that's very important, because we've got occupied buildings.
It would all be under the same terms and conditions of the original contract, it's just the amendment for the date. So all of that would still apply.
Okay, good.
So we're good.
And I wanted to speak up for John, because he's shared that
That should
concern.
all be
Sure.
under, all the same terms. We're just saying, instead of you having to come every month, you know the certainty now of what's gonna happen.
And again, we will wait. We're going to wait until, the governor speaks next week. So I think probably,
You don't have, you now would have,
You got
Well, it's-
tables up tonight.
it's
we vote on it.
a lot of work to tear them all down and put them all back up and tear them all.
you would have now, because
You'd have another month.
you have another month. You would
But
have
if
a
he
month.
fully reopens next week, then we're tearing them all back down again.
No, you're
So
not.
you're still another month for the
So
next
another
council
month.
meeting.
You have
Could
till,
still accommodate the.
yeah.
You're giving
Okay.
me from that date till the next council meeting plus a day.
Plus a day, so we can all discuss it, and then the
So
next
if you
day.
come back and say, hey, there's 4 weeks left in the fall season, this has been a big hit.
Okay,
I'm not saying we'll do it permanently, because we wrap up
Right.
the fall.
okay.
Yeah.
We support your cause.
We,
All right.
Amen.
We do have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, Linda, can you call the roll, please?
Everybody can just, we can vote here, I think.
Yes.
I wrote the vote.
And only if we get a bunch of, get who's saying once, so. Call for the vote.
Okay, and we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Okay, it passes. Now, we still need to discuss your request about the band.
Second part. So the second request, as I mentioned, was, it really doesn't make sense to me to allow indoor live music because you're in much closer quarters. And I mean, as an owner, it's more of a challenge to control people. They want to go tip the band. And so there's more movement. If we could go outside, which Governor Holcomb did recommend last week, that was probably a safer idea. So to have a live entertainment just on Saturday evenings. And if we need to control the number, we can hire people to control the number. I mean, that's up to you. I just think it's a safer alternative for our citizens that are still going to come out. And as Jake said, they're going to go somewhere. We'd rather them stay here, support local businesses, and follow our guidelines instead of going to Marion County and bringing that back here.
Julie, when you have live bands in the past, how many people have normally shown up on a Saturday night?
Outdoors?
Well, yeah, or even
We've never
indoors.
had them outdoors,
Yeah, even
besides First
indoors,
Friday.
Like what kind of crowd do you get?
Well, indoors, we can only have 35.
I was just asking prior to.
Prior to, I mean, we're so small, and we probably only have 75 people, but we're small. I'm sure that Tap House would attract some people because they can flip over their windows and people can sit there. I can't imagine. I don't know. It's kind of, I'm kind of torn. Like, I feel like not that many people would probably come than ordinary, but on the other hand, if you don't have a First Friday, they might look at it as, oh wait, here's my opportunity. So I think we have to think about both sides of that.
Yeah, how is this different from the first Friday that we just took?
And you're
Very
still,
much, in my opinion.
and you're still getting close when you're talking people outside when there's loud music and, to Mark's point.
Basically, we would have to, in order to do that, not only, the tables are spaced out, the 6 feet apart, but we would basically have to tape off, because people would bring their own lawn chair, just like they do. So it would have to be, it'd be a lot of work. It would have to be taped off of where you can be and where you cannot be. We've all seen that in grocery stores, and it'd have to be the same
And
thing.
we've seen how well people, but I guess I can hear an attorney telling us right now, this is what happens when you start opening doors and moving street, doing things that are not normal, like closing streets. I guess to me, the line in the sand this becomes another version of a block party. So I have trouble, I'm being honest, I have trouble with this one.
I understand that.
That's kind of where my lines begin to fall. They're not perfect lines. But this becomes more of a commercial block party. We did allow First Friday. It's kind of similar. So, but I'm going to leave my thoughts at that.
I
Well,
agree with you, Adam.
It's very similar.
see, I'm just looking at it again. I mentioned this about something at the last meeting. I don't know if there's a way to make it a limited access ticketed type event that would be controlled by Moores and have, basically a process for, enter and exit with your ticket and limit it to a number that's very reasonable that we could all agree upon. I like it as an opportunity because the band will be inside. And
Oh, you're talking about, yeah.
regardless, there will be live music. So I think if we could agree on a stipulation on a number, I would like to see it as a possibility, if Moores would be willing to control the access through a ticketed process. And I'm thinking 50 people or 100 people maybe. I'm not thinking 250 or 500, but
Yeah.
something
Can't get that
to,
many.
something to make this an opportunity, for the business and, again, for the community.
I understand where you are, Jake, and I respect what you're trying to get to, but Moore's is not in complete control of that block. Tap House will be sending people out, Scoops will be sending people
Right.
out. It's not a situation you can control in that kind of a way, I don't think.
A lot of access points, people congregating outside the closed-in block that could be there too, so.
And Julie, I'm wondering, and I'm just thinking out loud because I'm no expert on the excise
Right.
process, but we talked to the excise people way back when we first talked about doing this, and we got to
Right.
go ahead. But if that then is considered an extension of your restaurant, which I think it probably would be, if then you could serve out there? 'Cause I think
Oh,
that's
no,
what you-
we wouldn't set up any sales
Alcohol?
outside. It would
Okay.
simply be
Okay.
the musician.
Because I was gonna say, then you'd be limited
Oh.
on your number of people just by excise. if
Yes,
you
we
did that.
wouldn't
Okay.
even do that.
I think the I kind of like the idea. I think the stumbling block, at least for us tonight, is we would be then controlling access to Tap House, potentially to Scoops, because all those will become inside the access point, and I don't know how to get around. I don't know if we can do that, and I wouldn't know how to
Yeah, I
get
think
around
that'd be very difficult to do, to say, well, somebody wants to go eat at Tap House, well, there's too many people already in that block. And you want to go way into Tap House or Scoops.
To go through a gate.
Is go through the gate. And now they're counting, and they're going into a building.
Or they say, I'm going into Tap House, but they don't. Yeah,
Or they go in there for, and they come back out and enjoy the music, and we're not counting.
right.
Because we're saying, well, they went to Tap House.
I know that's been a difficulty with some other things that have been done in the past downtown about tracking where people go, and they say they're going to another place. And,
Oh, Music Fest.
That's,
Yeah. It's common.
that's common,
Yeah.
that's, yeah.
Well, maybe we revisit when we revisit First Friday.
I think that's a good suggestion.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Julie.
I'm glad that
Thank you.
I'm glad the outdoor seating has been
And
it helps that you have a lot of shade.
glad to see you well, Julie.
Okay, next, street closure request is Chris Weeks from Wasser Brewing. A similar situation of looking at possibly continuing street closure there. And Chris, you want to come up and say a few words?
Just two.
Okay.
I'm joking.
There you got it.
Yeah. I want to thank Mayor Dory for partnering with local businesses. I do appreciate the fact that he reaches out and talks to us. The reality for us on the outdoor seating is that, as my dad would say, it's been hot as hammered hell. Does anybody know where that phrase comes from?
No?
I was going to Google it, but yeah, I got busy.
Yeah.
POS system went down. What are you going to do? So it's been very, very hot outside. We do have an outdoor porch, which has been able to accommodate those who want to sit outside. We haven't had the overflow of people who want to sit outside. So essentially what I'm asking is that you give us the option to adapt. Because of the state leadership, I don't know if you heard wailing on Franklin Street on July 3rd when he changed his mind one day before.
I heard gnashing of teeth.
Yes, there was
Along with whaling.
grand gnashing of teeth because, the reality is I had hired a young man who had another job and told him that we had plenty of hours based on the fact that we had been told for months we were going to open on July 3rd. One of the most painful things for me personally is I know that when they made the announcement for St. Patrick's Day, the day before St. Patrick's Day, all of the restaurants and brew pubs and pubs around the Indiana were flush with food and product because it's one of the biggest days of the year. Every single business had coolers full of product that went bad. And if Mr. Holcomb had taken the time to tell people 2 weeks in advance, hey, maybe don't buy all this stuff. There are businesses that would still be in business today that are out of business because we were given no notice. And I'm sure you guys are all kind and intelligent enough to give us a little bit more notice than Governor Holcomb has. So what I'm just asking for is that if there are rules that change at the state level where they want people to sit outside, if we see consumer demand kind of gel around the idea that the safest path is to be outside, which if it were, I go outside all the time. We're just looking for options to be able to react to the fact that, the state gives us no notice.
Well, how about if we give you the same motion?
Yep.
By the way, I looked up the quote. There are variations of that quote, but I can't find that quote.
Okay.
But the same motion, I think, would be fair.
From a timing standpoint, would you be okay with the same thing from a timing standpoint we did with Moore's?
So we would continue to have access to the street until a week after or a month?
The day after the next city council meeting that the governor says everything's open.
So it could be 2 days, it could be a month.
Yeah.
So it gives you an option to come back in if you.
Okay.
Chris, my
The
hope
other thing
that,
we would need for you to do, Chris, because you're in somewhat of a unique situation, these may come and go as, like you say, consumer demand would be, is that we would ask you to call public safety people ahead of time and the 911 center to let them know you would be closing the street that evening.
Okay.
So that they could reroute emergency vehicles as needed.
Yeah, that's
And
perfect.
we'd still want to maintain a lane in the middle of the street.
Oh, yeah.
Should something happen there, but just because it's not a continuation thing, we'd ask you to do that. if
That's
okay.
fine.
Chris, my hope would be that you would need to close the street.
Yes.
Have you had to
Yeah.
do that yet?
Yeah.
Have you had to do that yet so far?
We have, but
Okay.
customers haven't sat out there.
Okay.
So, yeah, so we
You're,
just,
You're in the right middle of the sun. You have
Yeah.
no shade.
yeah, it's just hot.
Yeah.
So, maybe it'll cool off next week and everyone wants to sit outside. I don't
This
know.
weekend is supposed to be a little
Yeah.
cooler.
Yeah.
More seasonal.
Yeah. Welcome to Indiana.
Yeah.
I'd like to motion to approve the request with the stated, stated timeframe that applied to Moore's.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the request from Wasser Brewing Company with the same time frame and then the courtesy call to 911. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for getting us in.
Have a good night.
Good luck.
Take care.
Okay, we have department reports were included in the packet. We do have several department heads online, and then we've got a couple people who are on vacation, and then I think Scott's here in person as well. So if anybody has any questions.
And Rod.
Oh, okay. I didn't
He's
know-
hiding.
Yeah, okay. Hi, Rod. So I'm sure Rod will want to come up and do a little marketing for the Parks Department. So keep it crisp, please.
Starting with stopwatch, right?
Yeah, I left my,
Keep this one
I left
on
my
record.
stick-
Sure.
Please, behind the
Microphone.
microphone.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, we're gonna lump them all as beautification projects today, but we've got things going on at the Emerald Palace Playground, giving it a facelift. We have a contractor at the tennis courts. We have a contractor at the Aquatic Center who are doing improvements, very colorful improvements. And then we have Julie Carr and Kinetic Change are doing some landscaping, beautification projects at the Keith Carr basketball court, a big wellness sports park. So I would ask our council members and our members of the audience and those behind the camera if you get a chance, take a drive through one of the parks. Otherwise, my report is on your desk. I'm done unless you have questions.
Was there a problem, I meant to drive out and look at it, at the splash park with the flooring or something coming up, or, okay.
No.
Somebody asked me that, I meant to go out and look, and I just didn't get there.
I have not noticed the floor coming up in the splash park. No, there's not, no.
Rod, you've made it clear that you can't control contractors, but the
Right.
tennis and pickleball folks feel like we're kind of behind the schedule. What's the latest update on when that painting will take place so they can get back on those courts?
I will let you know that the contractor is putting the second coat of blue, which is the courts, playing courts themselves. The green around the edges is all done. I cannot guarantee he's gonna be here tomorrow, Friday. It's Friday. But he did state that he would be putting, the lines down and then we'll be done.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm hoping mid-part next week, all right, at the final date. Okay, but don't hold it to me because I think it's supposed to rain tomorrow as well.
Yep.
So, all right.
I noticed there's already some tournaments scheduled.
I wouldn't say a tournament, but I think they have their grand opening. It was scheduled for the 18th. They pushed it back to the 25th. I think they're now looking at the first week in August, just to ensure that the courts are ready to go and that. So, okay, and it might be a little cooler then, maybe.
Might be.
Might be, who knows? So, yep, all right. Any other questions? Then you all have good evening.
Thanks, Rod.
You too, Rod, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other department head questions?
Tom? Tom on tonight, or he's on?
He's on vacation.
He's out, that's right, I needed to talk to him.
Any other department heads online that want to say anything? Okay. Hearing none, and you're always welcome to, if you have a question, you're always welcome to call a department head. Okay, thanks, guys. If you're a department head, you can sign off now if you wish.
Or you can stay on.
Or you're welcome to stay on, yeah. Okay, I'm going to make my report quick. City Hall is open. We still want to encourage the public to pay their utility bills by mail or online or through the drive-up window, which is also open. Duke Energy is working on relocations of power lines along Zinc Mill Road. We would ask the public to be cautious during that construction. Actual road construction will start roughly August 1st on Zinc Mill Road. I know council has asked about the parking lot project over at DePaul to help provide parking for events on campus. That project is under construction. They're doing the stormwater drainage installation and full speed ahead on that. The dormitory is winding down. And then the Jackson Street stormwater project, these are tentative dates and subject to change, be roughly August 3rd to October 3rd. And that's to put the big culvert underneath Jackson Street. And part of the time frame there is there's a lot of rock in there, so it's not going to be a fun job. We are working on our list of streets to go out to bid. We have seen a decrease in local road and street money, so we shortened the list a little bit, but we're looking at Avenue D, Kingswood, to continue the cement panel patching in that neighborhood that was done last year, Kentwood, Eagle Court, and then about a block of Elizabeth Street that was not completed the previous year. So those are just a few highlights. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I saw in the claims bill that we have some engineering work that's been done on the new Columbia Street lot.
Yeah.
Do we have a timetable on that, when
I
that
do
lot will
not.
be available?
I'll get that. I didn't get a chance to talk to the engineer about that, but I know they've been working on it.
Wayfinding signage?
NDOT is reviewing our application for approval for the signs along the federal highways. So I'm hoping to hear back anytime soon. They've had it for a couple weeks already.
What about the signage that doesn't require NDOT approval? Are we
Well,
anywhere close?
We're going to get it all manufactured at the same time.
Okay.
It's encouraging to see all the construction out on Calvert Way, out by Walmart. It's good to see, yeah.
Yeah, they're making good progress out there. The weather has generally been cooperative, so.
Other than hot.
Yeah. We have asked our staff to make sure that they take appropriate precautions to get plenty of fluids, take a few extra rest breaks and things like that, especially if they're working outside. And like Brad Phillips is doing some work in the evening after dark. They're doing a lot of the thermo and street painting and stuff like that. And it's not only cooler, the thermo works better, but it's also less traffic to deal with, so it's a little safer for our crews.
Bill, any idea on the veteran project that's ongoing on the city's northeast side, how long that's going to continue?
I don't have an end timetable, but based on my observation of the construction, it looks like they're tying over individual services now from the old main to the new main, so that's why there's a lot of potholes in front of individual houses.
They're done, the street will be
Yeah, they'll have
as
another
good or better than it was before.
Yeah, they'll have another crew come in. I have, Veteran does a pretty decent job of fixing the street.
Good.
They've got a good crew that comes back and does that.
Okay. Another thing I wonder about is something I see every day, but don't think about every day, is the wall that was damaged by the sheriff's deputy back in January, I think.
Yeah.
What's the status of the claim on that? When are we gonna?
Hey, Brad, are you still online?
Yes,
Do you have any update on the parking lot wall?
I have contracted that out to Spiker. They're waiting on materials, as far as I know, to get in before they can repair it.
Okay.
We also have a tort claim filed on.
That was my next question, is who's responsible?
Against us. Against us.
Against us?
Yes.
How do you figure? Well, we don't
What
have
did
to
we
talk
do?
about that here.
Because we built a wall? Don't ask, okay.
It occurred on our street, so.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
That was all right. Anyway,
Okay. Linda?
Basically, you all know what I'm working on, budgets and waste and water rates, so that's about all I have.
Fun times.
Yep, and Bill gave me the information. He's met with everybody now, so
All the department
I have
heads.
all the department heads,
Good.
gave me the sheets, so we'll get those entered and.
Before we go tonight, I'd like to try to set a date for that budget committee so that we,
I think it's July 16th.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
July 16th. I don't know what time we decided on right off.
That'd be a week from tonight, wouldn't it?
That's next Thursday. Well, Cody, will that need to be at 7 o'clock?
What was the date on that? I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing. Can we have everybody mute their lines on Zoom?
Tell
Can
me.
you repeat the question?
Are you available before 7 o'clock next week,
July 16th.
that next Thursday?
Yeah, I can make that happen.
you might all kill me. It'd have to be done by 6.
Okay,
I have a meeting from 6 to 7:30, 7.
okay. Did we set a time, Stacy?
We had said 7 o'clock for Cody, but if he can come earlier, can we meet at, wow, you gotta be done by 6?
No, you'll have to be out, yeah.
4? How early can you meet, Cody?
I think I can do 5:30, but if you want to meet at 5:15, if that's doable.
Go ahead, and I'll try to figure something out.
You've got the high school graduation that night too, which may not factor in too much, 8:30, the high school graduation, so,
Any of us?
right. Well, I've got some folks that I'd like to support.
Yeah, but you're
so.
not.
None of us are allowed to be
This
there.
is
Budget
Oh.
committee.
this is budget committee, so
Yeah, so you're okay.
you're okay.
All right.
It's the budget committee, so you're okay.
Okay,
5:15 Thursday, the 16th.
okay. I'll send the agenda out.
Okay, counselors' reports, so start with Adam and just work our way around.
I really don't have much, except by the time we meet next month, we probably will begin to have students back on campus. We'll be back a little earlier this year, maybe. Depends on some things, but yeah. I'm sure that'll help perk up some local businesses as well. That's all I have.
Okay. And also, hopefully, by the time we meet next month, the public schools will be back in session, full steam ahead. So I didn't really have anything more either.
Brian Cox and Russell Harvey were supposed to come tonight, but because things are changing daily, They said if they came and reported tonight, they weren't sure, if things would be different in the next day or two. So they're planning to be on the agenda in August. Kids will be back in school by then, hopefully, but at least they're going to come and give us a little update on what the plans are and how things are going, so that'll be next month.
By that time, they'll already have a week under their belt.
No, unless they delay, or
Unless
I
they
have no
delay.
idea what the thinking
Yeah,
is. Yeah.
right.
Sports started this week.
I'd like to uplift the fine work of our first responders, continued fine work, especially in these challenging viral times, as well as extraordinarily hammered hell weather that we're experiencing.
My understanding is that the school board will meet next Wednesday night and finalize the plans for the next school year. I just want to thank elected officials and members of the council for wearing masks. I think it's really important the times we're going into that we model that behavior. So thank you.
Dave stole my thunder on the school board. I was just going to encourage people. I was on a call with Russell today, and he also encouraged any member of the public to show up and, share their thoughts on the plan and hear what they have to say. So 6 p.m., July 15th.
Nothing to report here.
Yeah, Cody, go ahead.
Nothing to report here.
Okay. Thanks, Cody. Next items of business are approval of minutes. We have 5 groups of minutes from the regular session, budget committee, special session, work session, and another special session.
Can we do those as one? Does council object?
No objection.
I move to approve all 5 active minutes.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second to approve all 5 sets of minutes as presented. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, thank you. Next is approval of city claims. Mr. Hammer?
Okay. We've got the claims for the month. We've got payroll of $465,434.66, pensions of $14,473.03, direct accounts payable of $136,864.70, and regular accounts payable of $525,269.91, for a grand total of $1,142,042.30. In the direct accounts payable, we've got Tyler Technologies for timekeeping for $4,484. PSI, I don't think that's the old Public Service Indiana, park improvements for $720.
They do testing.
Okay.
Geological testing.
Okay, that's going way back. So, First National Bank for an edit bond payment of $21,149. We've got a couple of redevelopment to civil engineering and Foyt's construction that total $43,899. We got a park bond payment of $20,671 to Old National. And then we have our regular utility bills, insurance payments, and what have you, that total the $136,864. In the regular accounts payable, we've got some rather sizable ones that cause it to be $525,000. Some of the more, some of those would be 5-alarm fire and safety. We've got fire coats, boots, and pants for $4,108. A.A. Huber for fire repairs for $62,360, and I forget what, is that the?
That's new heating and air conditioning.
HVAC system.
Just in time, by the way.
Just in time.
Grateful.
I'm sure, yes, I'm sure. We paid $1,520 for weed control on unsafe buildings. I can't remember, Graves, there we go, Graves Construction, park pool improvements, so that's $342,858, and that's for the slides and what have you out there. We've got a bunch of police vehicle repairs for $5,352. Humphreys Outdoor Power, there's lots and lots of equipment and general repairs that are minor, and then we had a rental repair of $13,268.26. Would that be something that should be under, is that correct, under
Sorry,
rental?
what was that again?
For Humphreys Outdoor Power, for rental repairs for $13,268. Yeah.
That's probably, he's probably put the wrong number. They purchased a new,
I was gonna say,
mower.
yeah, so I think that's
Two new
probably.
Dixie choppers in the cemetery.
Yeah, so I figured that was there was one that was a rental repair that was minor, $168, and there was $13,100. It was also marked
Just in
rental
the
repair.
wrong.
So,
Wrong.
that's what I figured, so. Hannibal Waggle and Klein for Roban Park improvements for $4,805. J&K Communications for tornado siren repair, something we don't see very often, $18,919. Pell Roofing and Siding for building maintenance, $11,900. I don't know which building that was.
That was the street department.
Okay.
That was a insurance claim.
Okay,
The
all right.
storm came through, so we basically got paid for that.
Okay. More Roban Park improvements for $1,151 to Putnam County Comprehensive Services. And even though the pool's not open, we've got pool maintenance for $3,954 to Spear Corporation. Probably just chemicals and what have you, the things that.
Probably splash pads.
Oh, splash pad,
There were
okay,
some
yeah.
repairs that needed to happen.
Okay. So with all those explanations and clarifications provided from everyone, I appreciate that. I would move for the adoption of the approval of the claims at $1,142,042.30.
I'll be glad to second it.
A motion and a second to approve the claims as presented. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
One abstention.
Stacy has to abstain. We have no old business. New business is, first item of new business is ordinance 2020-6, and ordinance amending ordinance 2000-4, and ordinance designating stop intersections. Go ahead and read that. Whereas IC 9-21-1-3 grants the city of Greencastle the authority to designate intersections as stop intersections, which requires all vehicles to stop at one or more of the entrances to the intersections. Whereas said statute requires the adoption of an ordinance designating stop intersections. Whereas the city of Greencastle adopted ordinance 2000-4, an ordinance designating stop intersections, setting out all stop intersections within the city of Greencastle, and has amended it in ordinances 2002-18, 2004-37, 2007-9, 2008-11, and 2018-1. Whereas the city of Greencastle has determined that a stop sign should be installed at the locations listed below and wishes to amend ordinance to add those intersections. Therefore, be it ordained and adopted by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle, Indiana, 1, that ordinance 2000-4, an ordinance designating stop intersections as previously amended, is hereby further amended to add the following stop intersections for the City of Greencastle on the streets listed below. Street sign, location, and intersecting street, and then that'll be followed by the number of additional stop signs. Woods Edge Boulevard at Cedarwood at the north intersection, 2 additional stop signs. Woods Edge Boulevard, Cedarwood Drive, south intersection, 2 stop signs. That all other stop intersections designated in ordinance 2000-4 as amended remain in full force and effect, passed and adopted by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle with proper signature lines. So Cody, Jacob, you asked that this be introduced, so if you want to say a few words.
Yes, I did actually. I know a number of the members of the community are in the audience, so I'd like to maybe ask if anybody has any comments or thoughts on this ordinance first. I'd like to hear from them. And
You want me to go up?
yeah, absolutely. If you want to approach the podium and
Please come forward.
state your name.
Indicate your name so Linda can make that part of the record, please.
Sure.
I'm Keith Eisenberg, 49 Cedarwood Drive at Woods Edge, and it has become a disaster over there. I've spoken to the mayor about it before, and because of all the new homes back there, it's a racetrack going through. We have people walking, some of them are in here. One of them almost got run over Monday. I was standing there watching. And granted, if stop signs go in, That don't mean they're gonna stop.
Exactly.
But it's just an option for you. The police department's been out, Mr. Sutherland's been out, Eric Vaughn's been out there and watched it, but nobody ever comes through at that time, you know? We have so many children out there riding bikes, and because my wife and I, we live on the corner, we see it all. And there's been so many near misses. It's a disaster. And, I mean, we're begging for them to come in there before I had to pick somebody up.
And Chief Sutherland did, with your help, did identify a few of the folks who.
He did very well about it.
Children, and he did have some conversations with them.
And he did a very good job. And we could probably use a little more police patrols over there. I mean, I'm not, you know, we see them come through, but because there's a lot more homes, Jared's done a great job behind us with Whispering Winds. It's a fantastic community. But that just made it a drag strip in and out. And with 30 more, I don't know how many homes is going up on our end, 25, 30 in that end.
Yeah, about, let's see, 28.
28, and then I know on the other end, but now we're asking for another, 28, 30 homes to come down through there. It has become, I mean, it's terrible. I mean, there's people in here, we've all almost been run over. I mean, you can stop. They have painted the white lines, it helped. Not saying that people in our part over don't just roll through the stop sign too, but the kids are riding their bikes through there and they can't see the vehicles coming. There's no way. And the people are coming so fast, if a kid goes out there, if a person's walking across the street, they're gonna get hit.
We've had several conversations with Jared and to ask him to remind his contractors and subcontractors.
And they do very well. They do, I'll tell you what, they keep it super clean back there, even the construction. But I know right now, they closed their construction entrance now. Now we've got all the semis coming through too. See, they don't have a construction entrance anymore. So all the concrete trucks are coming through, all the lumber's coming through, and the streets are getting pretty bad over there.
Is that because of zinc melt? Is that because of?
Yeah, they closed their construction entrance down because they got the cul-de-sac back there, so they can't get in there. So, and the streets are starting to bust up pretty well. I mean, that's just another thing that's gonna happen. But I know when it initially started, there was no construction traffic, zero, was supposed to come through there because of the roads. They're not made for that, they're not made for that at all.
We'll get with Jared and see if he can reopen that construction entrance.
I think it's gonna be difficult because it's all the cul-de-sac back there on him now. I don't know what the answer is.
We'll at least make the.
He's always, Jared and his dad both are fantastic. I mean, we have no problems whatsoever. And, but I think before and I guess it goes back, my dad ran over a three-year-old little boy. And I see the kids going through. No, I don't want to go out and pick somebody up. I don't want to pick one of my neighbors up, So we're asking for it to be done. And it's at both ends. There's some people back here that are from the other end too, at the other end of Cedarwood Drive. It's the same thing. It's just a drag strip. Let's see how quick we can get up there. For what reason? For what reason? But we're all guilty of speeding every once in a while. Me too. It happens.
Keith, I want to thank you for coming in and my comments on the matter, the reason why I wanted to bring it forward to council was I think it is a safe and logical step for us to take for that neighborhood, especially with those homes going in. I believe that regardless of a construction entrance, once those homes are in, I think this is just a safe precautionary step, one that I think the council hopefully could support for the neighborhood. And that's, these folks are here, in support of it as well. So I would hope we would. It's a motion to approve ordinance.
One question. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Absolutely.
How come there's no speed limit signs in Woods Edge? I mean, it was built in 95, 90. I'm just curious.
I can't answer that right off the top of my head. Brad, are you still on?
Yeah, we could put speed limit signs out there, but any residential area is deemed 30 miles an hour, regardless if there's a sign up or not. But if it's a speed limit sign you're looking for, I have no issue with putting one up.
Well, we do have the 30-mile-per-hour signs that I believe were installed by the contractor that are at an inappropriate or incorrect.
They are wrong, and I did contact Jared on that.
I don't know how somebody,
Apparently, I went through there earlier this morning. They're still not done, so I may have to take the initiative, go ahead and do them. But any residential area is still 30 miles per hour.
Yeah, that's state statute.
Brad, so you don't need a motion from us to put up those signs, right?
Yes, I do, because it doesn't meet MUTCD guidelines.
Well, I
No,
think
he means the speed limit.
the speed limit signs, you don't need any.
Oh, no, I wasn't on that, no.
But Brad, do you want to, I don't want to throw you under the bus, but do you want to, just for the benefit of council, to mention what the Uniform Manual Traffic Control?
Well, that particular intersection or any intersection would have to meet the guidelines, which is 300 vehicles per hour on any given hour, or 3 or more crashes that are susceptible to correction by the installation of a stop sign have been reported within a 12-month period, or 5 within a 2-year period.
But we've overridden that before.
Yes, you have. And that's why I say it's not, that's out of my hands. If council approves that, I have no issue with putting them up. But I can't I have to go by the guidelines I have.
I wasn't clear, Brad. I meant you can put up the 30-mile-an-hour sign.
Oh, yeah, I can do that anytime.
Okay.
well,
You want to make any comments about the liability issues or anything?
with that, I'd like to make the motion then to approve ordinance 2020-6.
This will be first reading.
Yeah, just as a reminder that it'll take another month.
No, anything helps, and I appreciate it. We all do.
Bill, I did call Tom's office, and he's out, and so I did ask for the information for fogging up regarding the accidents, and I haven't received any response, so I don't know the answer to
Well,
that, so.
I also talked to our city engineer a little bit about it, and he said normally stop signs are not used to control speed from a road design engineering perspective. There are some other mechanisms, but they also have good points and bad points.
Yeah,
So-
speed bumps tears people's vehicles up, I mean. Again, they're just options. It's an option for you to, I understand that.
I mean, I'm sure you'll be calling me next year saying people aren't stopping at stop signs.
No, because you know what? If that gets done, that's all I can do to help save somebody from getting hit or something out there. That's all I can do. So,
Okay.
you know. And we live on the corner, so
Yeah.
the neighbors like to come and yell at me, "Can you get anything done?" It's not that I haven't tried, Mr. Mayor.
No, I know. Like you heard, we've got
I
some
know.
rules that we have to.
Absolutely.
Well, you're about to get something done.
Good. I appreciate
Did
it.
you say that there's already stop bars painted on the?
Yes, sir.
on the
Yeah,
street?
and there is the yellow signs, cross traffic does not stop. That don't mean nothing.
Yeah, we just put
Yes,
thermal
they did. We appreciate it.
stop blocks out there on the other 2 stop signs.
Yep, there's a motion and a
We're
second.
gonna back it up now, back to the stop signs, okay. I assume all the people here from the neighborhood are all in agreement that this is something needed? Good, all right, I see 5 nodding heads.
Let's call the question and get her done.
Yeah,
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 20-6 on first reading as presented. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
do it again next month. We'll just-
Sounds good.
It'll just be, we'll read the title and ask if there's any changes, there won't be, I'm sure.
Sounds great.
Vote.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, our next item of business is ordinance number 2020-7, and Scott's here to answer any questions about this. It's an ordinance amending the text of the Greencastle, Indiana zoning ordinance. Whereas the city of Greencastle replaced its zoning ordinance and subdivision control ordinance on February 27, 2003. Whereas it is desirable in the city's best interest to amend the zoning ordinance and subdivision control ordinance as indicated below. Deleting language is indicated with strike through, and additional language is in italics. Now therefore be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle that it hereby amends the following sections of the zoning ordinance in the Greencastle City Code to read as follows. Zoning ordinance, section 2.16, professional business, A, permitted uses, public institutional uses, adding assisted living facility. Section 2.21, land use matrix, the land use matrix shall be amended to indicate the above changes. Section 14-2, definitions, this language is to be deleted. Assisted living facility, retirement facility, a facility providing services that assist residents with daily activities such as dressing, grooming, bathing, etc. New language, assisted living facility, a residential establishment or institution other than a hospital or nursing home that provides sleeping and living accommodations for 5 or more residents and limited medical health-related services and supportive services as described in IC 12-10-15-3. Services such as transportation, housekeeping, dietary supervision, and recreational activities may be offered. The facility may be part of a larger nursing home or comprehensive care facility or campus. The assisted living facility may or may not hold a license from the State Department of Health, but shall have done the following. 1, file and maintain a current disclosure for housing with services establishments form with the Family and Social Services Administration, Division of Aging as required by IC 12-10-15. Submitted an application for construction permit for long-term care facilities to the State Department of Health, Healthcare Engineering, and obtained a letter of approval from the Indiana State Department of Health that indicates the construction of facility meets license requirements regardless of whether or not the owner or operator holds a state license for the facility. Independent living facility, new language, C, retirement facility. Nursing home, the following language is stricken. A private home for the 24-hour per day care of the aged, infirm, or any other person in need of nursing care which does not contain equipment for surgical care for the treatment of disease or injury and is not permitted, primarily designed for mental patients or alcoholics. Nursing home does not include physical therapy equipment used in an ongoing basis for the rehabilitation of patients. New language. Nursing home, facility licensed by the State Board of Health that provides nursing services on a continuing basis, admits the majority of occupants upon the advice of physicians as ill or infirm persons requiring nursing services, provides for licensed physician services or supervision, and maintains medical records. Overnight patient stays shall be permitted as part of this use. A convalescent home, health or rehabilitation center, and rest home, if meeting the above criteria, shall also be included under this definition. A new language, retirement facility, a residential complex containing multifamily dwellings designed for and occupied by senior citizens. Such facilities may include common gathering and dining facilities, but does not include nursing care. All the terms and conditions contained within the zoning ordinance shall remain in full force and effect. This ordinance shall have the full force and effect upon passage of the Greencastle Common Council and its approval by the mayor. Passed and adopted language and signature lines are as normal. So, Scott, do you want to just make a quick introduction?
Just this became necessary when I was approached by a property owner with property in the hospital area, which is zoned professional business. And upon realizing that that zoning district didn't allow for an assisted living facility, we explored options to whether it was viable to include that. We checked with the Indiana Planning Association listserv for communities that had recently updated their definitions for assisted living facilities, as well as whether they would share comment on whether this could be problematic. We initially brought a recommendation to the Plan Commission, but determined that we really wanted to tie it more closely to state code as they regulate assisted living facilities. So we met with a gentleman who has experience in developing these sort of facilities, and came up with the revisions that were then heard at the June Plan Commission meeting, which is what brings us here this evening.
So we're basically adjusting our zoning law to allow for assisted living facilities to occur within the hospitals.
Within that particular area, correct.
Okay.
We're redefining too.
And we're defining, we're making sure we
defining
define
what.
The definition is a little tighter. And
Yeah.
there is the anomaly of whether or not you have a license or not, and that really goes to whether or not you're eligible for public pay. Most of the homes follow the standards, but they don't have a state license and they're private pay. But if you have public pay, like Medicare, Medicaid, you have to have a state license. But in order to ensure the quality of the facility, we're defining it and making them get that letter from the state health engineering department. So try to make sure that whatever projects come forward are a little better quality than just any old facility. It's also an advantage to the person who's building the facility. They could start out as an unlicensed facility and then, but because they've already got that approval, move to a licensed facility with little or no expense.
Kind of sounds like a no-brainer.
We thought so. It just became a little more complicated when you throw in state licensing standards, so that's why it took a little extra time.
What threw me off was that you may or may not hold a license from the State Department of Health, and we're in the middle of COVID-19, and we've been really lucky here in Putnam County with these kinds of facilities, but some other places, they've had large numbers of deaths, and so I thought may or may not have a license. Should I be concerned about that? It sounds like I should not be.
No.
Both licensed and unlicensed homes do receive certain inspections and things. It's more, it ties, the way it was explained to us is it was tied more to the pay situation.
Okay.
I didn't catch this until now, but I think for clarity, right where Dave was reading, if it should read in that last line of the first page, shall have done both of the following. The new one in 22, if somebody writes them as up to and or. So I would think that maybe we should throw that in, that it should have to do both of the following.
If you amend it, though, doesn't have to go back to planning, Lloyd?
Yeah.
Oh, then forget it.
I think it's implicit.
Yes.
The following is inclusive.
Yeah.
I agree.
Forgot about that.
I move to approve ordinance 2020-7
Again on first reading.
on first reading.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2020-7 on first reading as presented. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay. Back again next month for that one.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Next item of discussion is hazardous duty pay continuation. So open the floor for any questions on that.
I talked to the treasurer beforehand. She said we're fine to handle it. I mean, the governor hasn't ended the state of emergency. The men and women deserve it. They've done a good job. I would move that we continue hazardous duty pay till, how do I have to phrase this, Lori?
Well, right now, it says that it continues until you, either, wait.
It says it continues until they take action.
Until you take action to do away with it.
Can we say till stage 5, when we're up and running again?
Yeah, it doesn't say that.
Something in there.
So you can actually take no action and we can just, but no formal action in the minutes and move on.
Okay.
Now, if you amend it, then it'll have to come back and you have to do an amendment, and you'll have to have
Nope.
two readings.
Nope.
I move we take no formal action.
Let's let it just stand as it is.
Yep, I agree.
How do you like that?
We'll let that stand as it is. Next item of business is unpaid water bill collection and shut-offs. So based on the information that I sent out to council, because we're not regulated by the IURC.
Can we make a point?
Can I go back for a second? It says specifically, I will read this to you. Shall continue until such time as the governor of the state of Indiana determines that the state is no longer under a public health emergency, or until repealed by the common council, whichever occurs first. So, if we go to 5 and 5 says everything's open, it would stop. That's how it's worded now. So, everybody's okay?
Yep.
So what we will do is, if that's what we're gonna do, is when it goes to 5, we will send out a letter to our folks that owe, and explaining them and telling them that they can.
No, that was.
No, that was the, I went back.
She went
That
back.
was the other one.
Oh, I'm sorry,
That was the first responder.
She put it in
I'm sorry.
reverse, she put it in reverse
I
for a
just
second.
wanted to read it
Oh,
specifically.
oh, I'm
so
sorry, I
I
thought
knew
you were talking
exactly.
about the other one, okay.
No.
Sorry, let's talk about that. So we'll just back up.
Sorry.
So,
Sorry about that. I
so
just
we're on
wanted
the
to-
water, right?
Now we're on water.
Now we can go beyond water.
Okay.
So basically, we got some directive here from AIM, that basically kind of recommends that, that we should not do any disconnects through August the 14th. Or we're actually are prohibited from disconnecting, through August the 14th, okay? And of course, no no fees and, all that kind of stuff added to.
No late charges.
No late charges and all that.
Does that apply to business though, for like,
August 14th. That's all.
I never dreamed that it would.
Water, that's our utilities
Yeah.
customers.
We can't shut off water.
Can't shut off water for all of our utility customers.
So we'll revisit this next month,
We can revisit it next month.
because it'll be right after August 14th.
Which means some of the folks who are frequent
Actually,
flyers
August
are gonna,
13th.
Yeah, no. our
they're gonna
next
continue
meeting's
to
the
build up a
13th.
debt.
Yeah, so what we've been doing is we have been sending them letters, keeping them abreast of how much their utilities have become. But I guess, we could always, I was thinking, we probably shouldn't really shut anybody off before September the 18th, because the 18th is a shut-off day. And then, have kind of in mind how long we let people make up their payments. Whether it be 4 months, 6 months, but as long as, I would think as long as people are on payment plan and making those payments and current, with their current bill, then we would keep their water on. But as soon as they fall behind on any of them, then we would go shut them off after September 18th.
And why is September 18th?
That's our normal.
That's our normal shut off. Our normal, we shut off on the 18th of the month, is our normal shut off days.
So we couldn't do it August 18th.
Well, we could, but that's really,
I know.
that's really putting a lot of pressure on our utility guys, because they do go out a few days in advance and hang door hangers that tell them that you're being shut off. Now, we could, after next council meeting, after that, if we know for sure it's gonna be September the 18th, we send the letters out and tell them, here's the rules.
September 18th makes a lot more sense.
I-
And we might be delayed again next, we don't know.
Yeah, we may get delayed again.
Well, but what we were told before was, we don't have to, because we're not a regulated utility, we don't have to follow.
And
what
Linda
AIM
just
says.
said we've been
Not what the
advised.
IURC says, but the governor's order is till August.
Yeah, right now, his is
Okay.
through-
So there are two separate things saying the
Okay.
same thing.
Okay.
IURC recommends or requires payments, that you allow payments to be made. The governor strongly encourages that those who are not in the IURC allow payments, and that we work.
So I agree,
a plan for
but I don't like the fact that we're just letting debt pile up, and these people are gonna get so far behind they won't see a way out.
Have we had a lot more than usual, or is it not that many?
Well, I sent a council a list of what it is, and we have several that have some very large bills that will require, an extra, say, $100 on top of their regular bills to get.
They're gonna be paying like Fillmore pays.
Yeah, so
Get
they're
caught up.
gonna be paying a couple $100 a month, because they've got balances of $600 and $700
And a majority of them had past due accounts prior to the infection.
prior to the infection, so they're getting larger and larger, so.
I really want to be sensitive, and you and Melanie and your staff seem to be sensitive to people who are in a tough spot. But when you have somebody talking about the fact that they spent more on fireworks than what they owe on their water and sewer bill, it's kind of galling. And so I hate to have this drag out further and let the debt pile up further and create more challenges for your staff to try to collect that money, but I don't think we have any choice in this situation. The other thing that, I don't know how we do this and when we do this, but a $30 reconnect fee that's been out there for years, I think it needs to be raised substantially as a deterrent for somebody not paying their bill, getting turned off, and it's gonna cost them dearly to put it back on. $30 is not much of a disincentive. So I don't know how we attack that and what the number is,
You
but.
can add that on to our rate.
Water rates, that's
Water
where we
rates.
usually do those sorts of things, we add that to that
Okay.
ordinance.
So we will be reviewing all of those bad checks, water, the turn on, reconnect fees, and, all the other fees too, tap fees, the whole, everything.
And I appreciate the fact that I know you've been in contact with some of our big abusers.
We have sent out at least 3 letters reminding folks that we are not waiving water bills. We are not applying any penalties, but that will eventually come to a halt. And that we encourage them to pay on their bills. We're encouraged to set up payment plans, and we're, here to help them get current and moving forward, but we will shut off as soon as we're allowed to shut off.
Mhm. Especially if they
Is
don't,
the
especially if they don't
gist
try
of
to make any effort.
Right.
If they come forward and do a payment plan, and they stay on the payment plan and keep current, then I think that.
Yeah, move forward, then
Yep.
we'd be able to make that happen and not turn off their water. Because I guess you'll have to be thinking, if we turn off the water, then at that point, they gotta come up with the whole amount. We probably aren't gonna allow them to go back. I mean, your thoughts are that we don't allow them to go back and then set up a payment plan.
Right. What do you usually do before all this?
Well, it kind of depends. If it's somebody that does it all the time, we don't, we just,
Very little.
yeah,
wiggle room there.
if it's somebody that has some medical issues and are not working, then we set up a plan, or they give us a plan on when they're gonna get it taken care of. So it's usually case by case, but, we have some that it's all the time.
Yeah.
So we're not as
Sympathetic or.
sympathetic as people that have things happen, because life happens,
Right.
so. We're very nice people in the utility office, but, it just depends.
You may have heard me speak about some of the money the city's eligible to pay for, some of the expenses that related to COVID. We can get up to $340,000. Paying utility bills is not allowed under that particular funding pot. There is some money that has come down, and we've shared the information with United Way and Scott Monnett's organization and several others that may be able to help some people with rent and utilities and things like that. So those social service agencies are working on that arena, but although there's money out there, there's a lot of strings that have been attached to some of this money.
There's also aid through the Greencastle Township Trustee's Office as well.
Lori and I will put together a payment plan contract for those that get in that position, so it'll actually be something I'll come in and sign and work through it, and it's clear.
It will turn them off.
Turn them off if, they don't follow these.
There's
guidelines.
faith-based organizations that have these types of monies to help people out that are in a pinch too, so.
Okay, any further discussion on the water bill collection? Okay,
We'll talk
hearing
about it
none.
again next month, won't we? So what do we do next month if we're meeting the day before the 14th?
I mean, we can discuss it then, but I would say we would wait a month. We'd give them some wiggle room. I mean, we're not just gonna say.
No, but I mean, assuming that we go off, then that would start the time clock for the following month.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can talk about whatever payment plan we wanna come up with.
Okay.
Next item of business is the welcome letter to DePaul University students, and I believe Adam and Veronica worked on that, maybe a few others. Do you guys want to, Stacy, do you want to say anything?
No, I was just delighted that we had a collaborative effort on this letter to new students at DePaul, particularly in a challenging pandemic climate and atmosphere where folks are moving from one area of the country potentially to another that has very different attitudes about community and community-based public safety than the community they might be coming from. We wanted to be sure that we extended our arms in a virtual open arms to those new students.
Yeah, Amanda Kim, DePaul's new vice president, who I have not had a chance to meet. I feel bad about that. I don't know if you did yet, Veronica. Have you met with her?
With Amanda?
Yeah.
I have.
I've not met with her.
Not in the last month, but I met with her
Okay,
during.
so you know her. She's gonna arrange for it to go out to the students. I mean, I will say this as a coach and recruiter, I mean, I've never had more calls than I've had this year with families that are nervous. And it's totally understandable why, there's just too many variables flying out there at them. So I think anything we can do to welcome, it's probably something we should do every year. You know, when we look at it, Veronica and I are gonna throw our cell phones on there, so if they feel they need to actually talk to somebody from the DePaul community, they'll have it. You know, I just appreciate everyone doing it. I know our police chief, fire chief, Rod has all said they'll sign off on the letter as well. I think it shows what the letter says. We're here to serve everybody in our community. That's our job. So.
The other thing I've mentioned to you, Adam, and talked with 2 or 3 DePaul faculty, and now's not the time, because she's got a lot on her plate, but at some point this fall, I'd love to have DePauw's new president come in on camera, have a chance to talk about where DePaul is, where we're going, give us a chance to ask questions.
We've already extended that invitation to her. So.
Terrific.
And I have an opportunity coming up where I can bring that up. I think Lori said we need a motion since we're all signing it, so I'll make a motion to approve. I'll make a motion to approve the signing of the letter.
Yeah, yep, it's an action by the council, so you're all signing it, so it would need a motion.
I will second the motion, and when Adam first sent this, I mean, I said I'm on board 100%. I think it's a great idea, and I agree it's something we need to do every year probably and tweak a little bit, but yeah, good idea to come up with it, Adam.
Adam, I'm going to throw this out for just a suggestion. Should we add 1 or 2 sentences in there that state we have a full-time paid police department, which is generally assumed, but we also have a full-time paid fire department, which is not generally assumed in a small town, which I think, as a parent, that would give me more comfort knowing that we've got full-time staff, because, you know, a lot of people think we're a small town, don't have resources anyway, but I think it would maybe reinforce the message. If you guys don't want to do it, I'm fine with that.
I'm not sure we need to get into those weeds, especially since this is definitely a letter that's going out directly to the students. My guess is that this isn't going to get in front of the parents' eyes. Adam, do you have a different feeling?
I think the parents will read it because the parents seem to read more. Fair enough. But on the other hand, I don't think at this point, I think because the fire chief is signing it, it's almost implied. And that might be something we add next year.
Okay.
I just don't want to start racing whether they have a full-time fire department, how big is it, how small.
Adam, how's it going out? Email or paper copy?
I'm turning that over to Vice President Kim.
Okay.
My job is to get the letter, have it signed, which Linda said she could help me do. And then I will hand it to Vice President Kim, and she has resources to send it out via email, targeted marketing, whatever she would like to do.
So do we have, I know there was a little, maybe an email with a draft. Where's the text of the letter, though? I don't.
Should not be led.
I have not seen a full letter. I'm not opposed to signing it, but I don't want, I mean, there was that little email, but that seemed like a very.
The letter.
That was.
It's short.
It's a short welcome.
Okay,
I mean, I don't know if I can bring it up on my phone,
It was
actually.
an email from Adam.
okay.
I hope it gets mailed home, because
You really
parents,
should read it into the
parents have a
record.
greater chance of seeing it if it's mailed home
Linda, can you
rather
bring it
than
up on your
emailed to the
phone?
student.
Or,
I can probably.
I don't have my phone down
Upstairs
here.
and print it out.
I am the only one sitting at a computer, so I could probably do that for you guys.
Go ahead, Cody, if you've got it.
Yeah, I've got it. Mr. Mayor, I did like your idea, though. I'm going to vote for this either way, but I appreciated you bringing that up because, you know, building bridges between our police department and fire department and
I found it.
would be
Got it.
tremendous. So I appreciate that. But I'm happy not to rock the boat with what we've got. Welcome to Greencastle, Indiana. As department heads and elected officials of the city of Greencastle, we are thrilled to have you become a part of our community. Our aim is to serve those who reside and visit the city of Greencastle. The DePauw students are by definition residents of our city, and we are committed to welcoming and serving you. We realize that many DePauw students, particularly students of color and international students, come from communities where there is a lack of trust in government institutions and at times law enforcement. We understand this and want to assure you that our focus is on safety, fairness, and racial equality. Our pledge and our mission are to serve everyone in a way that ensures they feel safe and respected. Our elected officials have an open door policy. We want all DePauw students to feel welcome in our city and in your interactions with Greencastle residents and local government. Welcome to Greencastle and to DePauw.
the only thing in there is I think we're gonna add the word students, faculty, and staff. No, we're not?
I don't think so.
Okay, we're not. We're good. It's good. It's just as it is.
Okay, and we had a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the letter?
I'll just say I thank Stacy and Veronica for making it pretty. My first draft was
It
not.
was collaborative, it was good.
Adam, I did send it out to all the department heads. I didn't have any objections from anyone. They were all supportive.
Cool.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. That concludes the business of the city this evening, unless anybody has a comment for the good of the order. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Linda, you'll get us,
Yeah, I will, I have our generic letterhead that doesn't come from any particular office that we'll go through and I'll get it printed up and then, I guess the question is, just gonna sign it, you don't need to have, or do we need to have printed names underneath and you sign above it, or what's your thoughts on how it gets signed?
I think we put the printer name and email underneath.
Similar to what we have. I won't put a line under it, I think it'll look better if we don't. I may do it a couple,
yeah, don't have a place.
for the line, like we're signing
But
ordinances or
but I
whatever.
think it's important, especially for police chief, fire chief,
And
mayor.
then you have your titles after.
Yeah.
I'll talk, maybe we'll put Veronica in mine.
And I can do it up, and then I can send it out, and you guys can say perfect format, and we'll start getting it, we'll get it passed around.
Either Linda Huber can maybe call a few people and chase after it, or we can use the drive-through.
Drive-through, you can drive through it, or, you know,
We'd like to try, the goal is to get it out next week.
I will work on it first thing in the morning.
I appreciate it.
Okay, get it out next weekend, all right, good.
Okay.
And I will
motion-
send it out to you. So
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 We are officially adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.